2008 during the financial crash, and I'm fiddling around on eBay, and I find an ad for this car in Hoover, Montana, which is kind of the middle of the state and near the Canadian border, in the middle of nowhere.
And where is home for you?
And near Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah. And I see this car. The serial number is 10,650. And from the history of this introduction to the DS, the first day of the Paris Auto Show, they took 12,000 orders. And with this VIN being 10,650, and for a car nobody ever seen before,
That's my husband.
and the world went nuts.
That's my youngest son.
The end of that show, they had 80,000 orders and sold pretty significant. Anyway, I see this thing and I say, wow. And the kid who found it was about 19 years old, a budding mechanic, pulled it out of a ravine with 6 other cars, one of 3 DS's, the pictures are here. Those are the pictures he took. And 4 Mazdas, and I don't know whether they were the rotary engines or what. And the story I got from him was that some guy in this little tiny town loved fiddling with the cars, and he'd buy old ones or ones that were too cheap for the band and take them apart, have his fun, and then put them in the ravine, and he was going to level his property by turning them into landfill. Bury him all. And the kid, his name was Craig Shaw, he probably got it for hauling it away for free. He takes it to a local shop, he gets it running, and he didn't even have to fiddle with the crazy lost spark ignition system on these early cars that they had to put on the Traction Avant block. And then he does a video of it pumping itself up on YouTube.
Sorry, what year was this?
This is 2008.
2008. Wow.
2008, and long story short, I win the bid, and I can't find anybody to go way the hell up there to transport it to Detroit. And I was in Northern California for the winter, so I pay for outside storage at 25 bucks a month in this open air lot, no cover, for 10 years. Finally decide I'm going to drive cross country from San Francisco Bay in that minivan with my dolly, pick it up in Hoover, and trailer it at 1,400 miles to Detroit. The total trip was 3,300 miles. And to get this car there, which didn't run at the time because it sat for 10 years, the tires still held air when I got there. I had 5 new Michelins. The kid that owned the shop now and was running his own repair business 10 years later. They swap all the tires on, and I throw it on the dolly and drag it home. And I put my spacers, the elastomer spacer rods, in the suspension cylinders to take the shock stress out of it, and had some hellishly rough roads. They didn't damage it, even though it had no true original suspension. And this is what I've got. It's a prototype. It's got all kinds of strange features I have never seen before, and shows what they did wrong and how they changed it compared to what we drive now. And it's really a prototype, because every car company goes through the stage of a new vehicle and finds things they need to fix. So it's got the original aluminum hood, fiberglass roof, but an aluminum trunk lid, which was on the early cars that they switched to steel. It's got various features. One of the most annoying ones is when you open the hood, there are 2 bolts either side where the hinge is bolted to the chassis. But the front one is put in from the bottom. It's only accessible with the fenders off. Now how are you going to adjust the fit of the hood to the fenders when you got to... So that was one thing they fixed.
That's good.
Yeah, they moved it back, put it in the right place. They both going from the top, and the ends of the bumpers here. Normally there's a little bracket with 2 bolts or nuts on it. This is a molded rubber piece with a bracket inside it with the nut plates. And so that's rubber. They changed that. They simplified. I just went to a steel bracket and got rid of the rubber. And somebody here today just pointed out to me something I hadn't seen either on the window seals. Everyone, and again, I forget who it was here, but knows the car better than I do. See this block back here?
Yeah.
You can see a block that doesn't exist on the later model cars, and it's on every single. It spaces. It pushes the seal out against the glass.
Right.
See the block? Those are non-existent on all the other cars.
I mean, the fact that you can't press it in here.
Right,
but
right,
here,
right.
That is so interesting.
Yeah, and so that was another feature. The window channels are peculiar. They're a straight steel channel lined with felt or some material like every other car in the world, which collect dirt over time and lock up the glass. It does not have that nylon guide bearing and a much more open channel as all the later cars. And there's no kick-in at the top when the window gets up to pull it against the seal. So these cars also had tiny 5mm adjusting screws to move the window channels in and out to get a good seal to the gasket, which is a pain in the butt. Each one little tiny screws here. Details that were eliminated, and without the kick-in on the upper channel, so that was a simplification. The front fenders, where the rubber bushings are that mount on the big prong, they're mounted in a triangular plate which is separately screwed to the fender, and it floats around carrying this rubber grommet with it. And they got rid of that by integrating that, making the grommet itself, the rubber piece, move by itself. So they threw away 3 bolts on each fender, the plate, and all that extra detail, and simplified it. Things like that they did. Plus it's got a different wiring harness arrangement and a different hood prop.
There was a car like that, better shape.
It's on the left side instead of the right, and it hooks up on this different bracket on the battery tray, and the tire tools are over there, not underneath the spare tire tray. And you look at the battery clamp, and you see the diagonal threaded rods that clamp the backside of the battery. This is 56 only, according to a manual, an original manual I have. And that tin can solenoid for the starter, they dropped after 56 and went to the Citroën with the plastic thing and the push button. So this is all only 56, and the wiring harness does not go across the firewall over to the right side fender. It comes across down here in this tube over to the right side fender. And as we talk about major changes such as locating the pressure regulator, the real PITA on later cars, the original engineers put it where it should have stayed, right up there front. Super access for bleeding the system, changing the sphere, which is why 45 years ago I started moving them up to the right side frame harness. And when they stuck it on the engine block, because of the factory desire, they screwed us all. So, and I had the pressure line rupture on a 70D special during Woodward Cruise in Detroit, where we got 30,000 cars and 1 million viewers, and I had to go back on a flatbed because I fatigue cracked the high pressure line on that doggone regulator on the engine.
Ken, what's your plan for this?
Next year, drive it as you see it, all the way here without a dollar. I'm going to call it a preservation class.
Yep. Right.
And as is, because this is how I found it, or the kid found it, and I managed to go from there.
Did you mention the Chevron seats, Ken?
Pardon?
Did you mention the
Oh,
Chevron?
yeah. I didn't even notice till today. You look at those tattered seats. The pattern is double chevrons in miniature. Take a look at that ripped up upholstery.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to commission a weaver to make new covers for it?
Not a bad idea. But I'd replace that horsehair padding and springs with urethane foam.
Yeah.